The Kazakhs, qɑzɑqtɑ, the English name is transliterated from Russian, are a Turkic people who mainly inhabit the northern parts of Central Asia. Kazakh identity is of medieval origin and was strongly shaped by the foundation of the Kazakh Khanate between 1456 and 1465, when several tribes under the rule of the sultans Zhanibek and Kerey departed from the Khanate of Khan. The Kazakhs are descendants of the Turkic and medieval Mongol tribes, Argyns, Dughlats, Naimans, Jalairs, Khazars, Qarluqs, and of the Kipchaks and Cumans, and other tribes such as the Huns, and ancient Iranian nomads like the Sarmatians. Saka and Scythians from East Europe populated the territory between Siberia and the Black Sea and remained in Central Asia and Eastern Europe when the nomadic groups started to invade and conquer the area between the 5th and 13th centuries AD. Kazakhs were one of the nations most severely affected by the Soviet famine of 1932–33, with 66% of the total population dying. Etymology of Kazakh. The Kazakhs probably began using this name during either the 15th or 16th centuries. There are many theories on the origin of the word Kazakh. Some speculate that it comes from the Turkish verb qaz, because the Kazakhs were wandering steppe-men, or that it derives from the Proto-Turkic word Kartik. Another theory on the origin of the word Kazakh is that it comes from the ancient Turkic word qazgak, first mentioned on the 8th century Turkic monument of Uyuk-Turun. According to the notable Turkic linguist Vasily Radlov and the Orientalist Veniamin Udan, the noun qazgak derives from the same root as the verb qazgan. Therefore, qazgak defines a type of person who seeks profit and gain. Kazakh was a common term throughout medieval Central Asia, generally with regard to individuals or groups who had taken or achieved independence from a figure of authority. Timur described his own youth without directory authority as his Kazakh. At the time of the Uzbek nomads' conquest of Central Asia, the Uzbek Khan AD.Kazakhs had differences with the Chingashid chiefs Jalairs, Kerey and Zhanibek, descendants of Urus Khan. These differences probably resulted from the crushing defeat of AD.Kazakhs Khan at the hands of the Kalmyks. Kerey and Zhanibek moved with a large following of nomads to the region of Shetisu on the border of Mogulistan and set up new pastures there with the blessing of the Moghul-Chingizides and Burka, who hoped for a buffer zone of protection against the expansion of the Oirats. It is not explicitly explained that this is why the later Kazakhs took the name permanently, but it is the only historically verifiable source of the ethnonym. The group under Kerey and Zhanibek are called in various sources Kazakhs and Uzbek Kazakhs. Later Russian language sources incorrectly termed them Kyrgyz and Kyrgyz Kazakh. The word Kazakh stems largely from a Russian convention seeking to distinguish the Kazakhs of the steppes from the Cossacks of the Russian imperial military. Kazakh, Cossack. The Russian term Cossack probably comes from the same Kipchak etymological root, i.e., wanderer, brigand, independent freebooter. Oral history. Due to the nomadic pastoral lifestyle, Kazakhs kept an epic tradition of oral history. The nation, which amalgamated nomadic tribes of various Kazakh origins, managed to preserve the distant memory of the original founding clans. It was important for a Kazakh to know his or her genealogical tree for no less than 7 generations back. 3. Kazakh Jews. In modern Kazakhstan, tribalism is fading away in business and government life. Still, it is common for a Kazakh man or woman to ask another one which tribe he or she belongs to when getting acquainted with each other. Nowadays, it is more of a tradition than necessity. There is no hostility between tribes. Kazakhs, regardless of the tribal origin, consider themselves one nation. Those modern-day Kazakhs who yet remember the tribes know that the tribes belong to one of the three Jews: the senior order, the middle, or the junior. History of the hordes. There is much debate surrounding the origins of the hordes. Their age is unknown so far in extant historical texts, with the earliest mentions in the 17th century. The Turkologist Veliaminov Zernov believed that it was a capture of the important cities of Tashkent, Jassy, and Sarm in 1598 by Tawakkul Khan that separated the Kazakhs, as only a portion of the century possessed the cities. This theory suggests that the Kazakhs then divided among a wider territory after expanding from Jadisu into most of the Kipchak, with a focus on the trade available through the cities of the Middle Syrdarya, of which Sarm and Yati belong. Language. The Kazakh language is a member of the Turkic language family. Azar, Uzbek, Kyrgyz, Tatar, Uighur, Turkish, Azeri, Turkmen, and many other living and historical languages spoken in Eastern Europe, Central Asia, Xinjiang, and Siberia. Kazakh belongs to the Kipchak group of the Turkic language family. Kazakh is characterized, in distinction to other Turkic languages, by the presence of *, in place of reconstructed Proto-Turkic *, and in place of *t. Furthermore, Kazakh has *d, where other Turkic languages have j. Kazakh, like most of the Turkic language family, lacks phonemic vowel length, and as such there is no distinction between long and short vowels. Kazakh was written with the Arabic script during the 19th century, when a number of poets, educated in Islamic schools, incited revolt against Russia. Russia's response was to set up secular schools and devise a way of writing Kazakh with the Cyrillic alphabet, which was not widely accepted. By 1917, the Arabic script was reintroduced, even in schools and local government. In 1927, a Kazakh nationalist movement sprang up but was soon suppressed. At the same time, the Arabic script was banned and the Latin alphabet was imposed for writing Kazakh. The native Latin alphabet was in turn replaced by the Cyrillic alphabet in 1940 by Soviet interventionists. Today, there are efforts to return to the Latin script. Kazakh is a state language in Kazakhstan. It is also spoken in the Ili region of the Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region in the People's Republic of China, where the Arabic script is used, and in western parts of Mongolia, where Cyrillic script is in use. European Kazakhs use the Latin alphabet. Religion. Ancestors of modern Kazakhs believed in shamanism and Tengrism, then Zoroastrianism, Buddhism and Christianity, including Church of the East. Islam was firstly introduced to ancestors of modern Kazakhs during the 8th century when the Arab missionaries entered Central Asia. Islam initially took hold in the southern portions of Turkestan and thereafter gradually spread northward. Islam also took root due to the zealous missionary work of Samanid rulers, notably in areas surrounding Taraz, where a significant number of Turks accepted Islam. Additionally, in the late 14th century, the Golden Horde propagated Islam amongst the Kazakhs and other tribes. During the 18th century, Russian influence toward the region rapidly increased throughout Central Asia. Led by Catherine, the Russians initially demonstrated a willingness in allowing Islam to flourish as Muslim clerics were invited into the region to preach to the Kazakhs, whom the Russians viewed as savages and ignorant of morals and ethics. However, Russian policy gradually changed toward weakening Islam by introducing pre-Islamic elements of collective consciousness. Such attempts included methods of eulogizing pre-Islamic historical figures and imposing a sense of inferiority by sending Kazakhs a highly elite, Russian military institutions. In response, Kazakh religious leaders attempted to bring religious fervor by espousing pan-Turkism, though many were persecuted as a result. During the Soviet era, Muslim institutions survived only in areas where Kazakhs significantly outnumbered non-Muslims due to everyday Muslim practices. In an attempt to conform Kazakhs into communist ideologies, gender relations and other aspects of the Kazakh culture were key targets of social change. In more recent times, however, Kazakhs have gradually employed a determined effort in revitalizing Islamic religious institutions after the fall of the Soviet Union. Some Kazakhs continue to identify with their Islamic faith, and even more devotedly in the countryside. Those who claim descent from the original Muslim soldiers and missionaries of the 8th century command substantial respect in their communities. Kazakh political figures have also stressed the need to sponsor Islamic awareness. For example, the Kazakh Foreign Affairs Minister, Marat Argyns, recently emphasized that Kazakhstan attaches importance to the use of positive potential Islam, learning of its history, culture and heritage, pre-Islamic beliefs, the worship of the sky, of the ancestors, and of fire, for example, continued to a great extent to be preserved among the common people. However, the Kazakhs believed in the supernatural forces of good and evil spirits, of wood goblins and giants, to protect themselves from them, as well as from the evil eye. The Kazakhs wore protection beads and talismans. Shamanic beliefs are still widely preserved among the Kazakhs, as well as belief in the strength of the bearers of this worship, the shamans, which the Kazakhs call Baksi, in contradistinction to the Siberian shamans, who used drums during the rituals. The Kazakh shamans, who could also be men or women, played on a stringed instrument similar to a large violin. At present, both Islamic and pre-Islamic beliefs continue to be found among the Kazakhs, especially among the elderly. According to 2009 national census, 39,172 Kazakhs are Christians. Genetic studies. A full study of the genetic makeup of the Kazakh population is far from being finished. According to mitochondrial DNA studies, the main maternal lineages of Kazakhs are D, C, G, A, F, which is of Eastern Eurasian origin, and haplogroups H, T, J, K, U5, and others of Western Eurasian origin. An analysis of ancient Kazakhs found that East Asian haplogroups such as A and C did not begin to move into the Kazakh steppe region till around the time of the Zhormu, which is around the onset of the Sagat culture as well. In a sample of 54 Kazakhs and 119 Altayan Kazakh, the main paternal lineages of Kazakhs are C, O, N, J, R. In a sample of 409 ethnic Kazakhs, the main paternal lineages of Kazakhs are C, R, G, J, N, O, Q, 2B 36.4%, R1A 13.9%. G1 10.3%, R1B 7.1%, C2D 5.6%, J2 5.6%, O 5.1%, N1 5.1%, J1 2.7%, Q1 2.2%, R2 1.7%, D1 1.7%, E1%, I2 0.5%, L 0.3%, T 0.3%, I1 0.3%, G2 0.3%. Population. Historical population of Kazakhs, Kazakh minorities. Russia. In Russia, the Kazakh population lives primarily in the regions bordering Kazakhstan. According to latest census, there are 654,000 Kazakhs in Russia, most of whom are in the Astrakhan, Volgograd, Saratov, Samara, Orenburg, Chelyabinsk, Kurgan, Tyumen, Omsk, Novosibirsk, Altai Krai and Altai Republic. regions. Though ethnically Kazakh after the dissolution of the Soviet Union in 1991, these people acquired Russian citizenship. China Kazakhs migrated into Dzungaria in the 18th century after the Dzunga genocide resulted in the native Buddhist Dzunga Irat population being massacred. Kazakhs, called Hasegzu in Chinese, are among 56 ethnic groups officially recognized by the People's Republic of China. Thousands of Kazakhs fled to China during the 1932–1933 famine in Kazakhstan. In 1936, after Chiang Shisai expelled 30,000 Kazakhs from Xinjiang to Qinghai, who, led by General Ma Bufang, massacred the fellow Muslim Kazakhs. Until the war, 135 of them left. From northern Xinjiang, over 7,000 Kazakhs fled to the Tibetan Qinghai Plateau region via Gansu and were wreaking massive havoc, so Ma Bufang solved the problem by relegating the Kazakhs into designated pasture land in Qinghai. But Hui, Tibetans, and Kazakhs in the region continued to clash against each other. Tibetans attacked and fought against the Kazakhs as they entered Tibet via Gansu and Qinghai. In northern Tibet, Kazakhs clashed with Tibetan soldiers, and then the Kazakhs were sent to Ladakh. Tibetan troops robbed and killed Kazakhs 400 miles east of Lhasa at Chamdu when the Kazakhs were entering Tibet. In 1934, 1935, 1936 to 1938, from Kumal Alexand led the Kerey Kazakhs to migrate to Gansu, and the amount was estimated at 18,000, and they entered Gansu and Qinghai. Tibetan troops serving under the Dalai Lama murdered the American CIA agent Douglas MacKinnon and his two white Russian helpers because he was dressed as a Kazakh, their enemy. In China there is one Kazakh autonomous prefecture, the Ili Kazakh Autonomous Prefecture in the Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region, 3 Kazakh autonomous counties, Aksai Kazakh Autonomous County in Gansu, Baikal Kazakh Autonomous County and Mari Kazakh Autonomous County in the Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region. Many Kazakhs in China are not fluent in standard Chinese, instead speaking the Kazakh language. In the place Holy Far Away, based on a Kazakh folk song, is very popular outside the Kazakh regions, especially in the far eastern countries of China, Japan and Korea. Mongolia. In the 19th century, the advance of the Russian Empire troops pushed Kazakhs to neighboring countries. In around 1860, part of the Middle Juz Kazakhs came to Mongolia and were allowed to settle down in Bayanolgi, Western Mongolia, and for most of the 20th century they remained an isolated, tightly knit community. Ethnic Kazakhs live predominantly in Western Mongolia in Bayanolgi Province and Kovd Province. In addition, a number of Kazakh communities can be found in various cities and towns spread throughout the country. Some of the major population centers with a significant Kazakh presence include Ulaanbaatar and Burk cities. Uzbekistan. 400,000 Kazakhs live in Karakalpakstan and 100,000 in the Tashkent province. Since the fall of Soviet Union, vast majority of Kazakh people are returning to Kazakhstan, mainly to Mangust Oblast. Most Kazakhs in Karakalpakstan are descendants of one of the branches of Junior Juz Adai tribe. Iranian Kazakhs live mainly in the Golestan province in northern Iran. According to Ethnologue.org, in 1982 there were 3,000 Kazakhs living in the city of Gorgan. Since fall of the Soviet Union, number of Kazakhs in Iran decreased due to emigration to the historical motherland, Afghanistan. Afghan Kipchaks are a Mak tribe of Kazakh origin that can be found in Obi district to the east of Western Afghan province of Herat. Between the rivers Farah-Rud and Hari-Rud, Afghan Kipchaks together with the Durzais and Khazars, two other tribes of Pushtun origin, constitute a Mani tribe. There are approximately 440,000 Afghan Kipchaks. Culture. National Kazakh wear. For centuries, Kazakh national clothes were simple and rational. It was characterized by common forms for all segments of the population, but with a certain social and age regulations. Elegance and beautiful elements to dresses were given by fur trim, embroidery, jewelry. Traditional materials for the clothes were leather, fur, thin felt cloth, which was produced by the local population. Clothes sewn from imported materials, silk, brocade, velvet, were a kind of measure of wealthiness of their owners. Cotton was also widely used. Kazakhs have always valued animal skins and furs as sewing material. Coats, also called tuns, were sewed from animal skins, and fur coats, such as shash, were sewed from furred animals, which were perfectly suitable for weather conditions in Kazakh steppes. Outerwear was prepared from skins and furs of wild and domestic animals, according to the names of which clothes were called. Zhanibek, a coat of raccoon fur, Qarluqs, of a black fox fur, Kamshat, a beaver hat, Botatun, a coat from camel skin, qɑzɑqtɑ, from a foal skin, etc. Many kinds of clothing were made from felt. Predominantly white coat was used for its production, and thin fur from sheep's neck was considered particularly valuable. National clothes of Kazakh women. A Kazakh woman traditionally wore a dress with a waistcoat. Generally, outerwear of women was similar to that of men. Similar jackets, waistcoats, gowns, wide leather belts. It differed from men's only in colors and some decoration details. Headwear of Kazakh women, similar to many other nationalities, was also a kind of indicator of the marital status. Headwear of married women differed in different tribal groups, but girls' headwear was comparatively similar throughout the territory of Kazakhstan. Girls used to wear hats of two types, skull cap and a warm hat, decorated with otter, fox or beaver fur. A tuft of owl feather was often sewed to the top of taqiyya for decoration purposes, which also played a role of a talisman. Gimp, tassels, gold embroidery and even silver coins were also used for decoration. Kazakh women's national bridal headwear saukel, which is a high conical hat, is of particular importance. The most expensive of them were evaluated in 100 selected horses. Saukel was a mandatory part of girls' dowry, and was prepared long before the girls reached the age of marriage, together with the wedding gown, which was often made of expensive fabric, usually red color. Bride was supposed to wear a saukel during the wedding ceremony, then it was worn on holidays for some time after the marriage. Saukel is decorated by metal fishnet tops, tiara, temple pendants and chin decorations. Saukel cone is covered with cloth, which was sewed by metal badges of different configurations, into bezels of which precious and semi-precious stones are inserted. A broad ribbon of expensive fabric, decorated with fringes of gold thread, was also attached to the back of saukel, which went down to cover a part of the back of the girl. Compulsory supplement to saukel is a long suspension, called qɑzɑqtɑ, which is attached to it from both sides, reaching the waist of the girl. The most skilled craftsmen participated in saukel manufacturing: cutters, embroiderers, jewelers, who applied the molding, embossing, stamping, etc. During the process of manufacturing, it took a year or even more to prepare one such saukel. With the birth of the first child, a woman put a headwear of a married woman on, which was worn until her old ages. The details of this vary a little depending on the age of woman and region she came from. This headwear consisted of two parts: the bottom, kameshek, worn on the head, and the top, in the form of a turban, wound over the bottom part of the headwear. Both parts were made from white fabric. These types of headwear are worn by older women even today. National clothes of Kazakh men. Kazakh men used to wear different skull caps, summer and winter hats. Summer hat kalpak was sewed from thin felt, mostly white, and had a specific ancient cut. Borik and tymok were worn in winter. Tymok is a warm winter hat with ear flaps and neck flaps made from fox, which is popular among Kazakh men even nowadays. Bashlik is another national headwear made of camel cloth, which was supposed to be worn on top of other hats to protect from dust, sun, rain and snow. Men's clothing consisted of the following components: double undervest, lower pants, made of light fabric, and the upper, of cloth, suede, sheepskin of thick cotton fabric. For the early ages, when the Kazakhs used to go horseback riding, trousers were a necessary and important part of the clothing. The main type of outer clothing was shapan, a kind of robe. In old times, men's and women's footwear were also similar, though girls' boots were often decorated with embroidery and applique work. Footwear differed according to seasons. For example, winter boots were tall, broad-shafted, worn over the felt stockings. Also, there were differences between footwear of older and younger people. Young people often wore boots with high heels, older people with low heels. Another common type of footwear among Kazakhs was light boots without heels, tight-fitting on legs, called ichidi-mazi. Leather kebbe was worn over them, which was supposed to be put off at the entrance to the house. Decorations. A great variety of different decorations, great applications, patches were used on clothing, headwear, footwear. Carnelian, coral, pearl, colored glass were used to decorate gold, silver, copper, bronze jewelry of women. Earrings, flat and wrought bracelets and rings were extremely beautiful. Rings, depending on the traditional forms, have specific names, such as the bird's beak ring. Belts, a compulsory element of both male and female clothing, were decorated especially. It was ornamented with embroidery. Silver badges were sewn on it. Types of jewelry usually depended on age, social and marital status of those who wore them. Some of them were typical for certain territorial groups. People's clothing is constantly being targeted by fashion designers. Contemporary clothing, created using national motifs, is always original and unique. Music. Many are also skilled in the performance of Kazakh traditional songs. One of the most commonly used traditional musical instruments of the Kazakhs is the dombra, a plucked lute with two strings. It is often used to accompany solo group singing. Another popular instrument is kobys, a bow instrument played on the knees. Along with other instruments, these two instruments play a key role in the traditional Kazakh orchestra. A notable composer is Kamangazi, who lived in the 19th century. After studying in Moscow, Gaziza Jubanova became the first woman classical composer in Kazakhstan, whose compositions reflect Kazakh history and folklore. A notable singer of the Soviet epoch is Rosa Rimbareva. She was a star of the trans-Soviet Union scale. A notable Kazakh rock band is Urka, performing in the genre of ethno-rock, which synthesizes rock music with the traditional Kazakh music. Notable Kazakhs.